Hello, and welcome to another edition of Atlas Information Live. We are your host, Atlas Halux, and we we have had quite the week coming into today's live stream. And what has been surfacing again and again and again are examples of individuals who are going public with radical, revolutionary ideas and concepts. And more importantly than that, making an overt attack maybe is not the right word, but an open critique of many of the foundational truths that we believe to be absolute, many of the underlying paradigms, the underlying assumptions that we have built our entire civilization on. And some of these assumptions include mathematical paradigms, such as Euclidean geometry and other facets, other aspects that, again, this humanity has taken for granted and is just taken at face value and assumed must be correct. And one of the individuals that appeared on our radar is Terrence Howard. Now, he's an actor. He's not perhaps the most well-known actor, or he's certainly not in the league of Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or Leonardo DiCaprio, or even Denzel Washington for that matter. But he is a successful actor, and I think he was one of the lead actors in a series called Boardwalk Empire. Don't know if you're familiar with that. But he has gone public with a revelation that he has, since the age of 5, been working on decoding the flower of life and supersymmetries and vortex mathematics, similar to what Walter Russell was writing about in the 1920s and 30s. And he has a number of YouTube videos. And in one video, he's speaking to a class at Oxford, we believe, Oxford mathematicians. And he's making his case for various different assumptions that mathematics makes, that they are erroneous. And he shows, using a calculator, you can all do this experiment where you cube a number and then divide it by 2, and then cube it and divide it by 2, and cube it and divide it by 2, and you get the same number. But only for the number 2. Any number above that, and it grows exponentially. But the number 2, if you square root it and then cube it and divide it by 2, and then you end up in a loop. You ended up in a illogical, a mathematically a mathematical fallacy, a logical fallacy. And since last week, we were given information regarding this. The information that we were given is 1111. And everyone knows, or at least in esoteric circles, even in New Age circles, everybody knows the importance of 1111. It keeps showing up everywhere, and everybody knows that it's spiritually significant. But the true significance of 1111 has not yet revealed itself to us as a humanity. And it is bound up in the relationship, in this relationship between the number 2 and multiplication by 2 and the square root of 2, and how you end up with this logical fallacy. We're not in a position to unravel this for you. We're still working this out. But Terrence Howard is also working it out, or if not, he's already worked it out. He just hasn't made it public yet. But according to him, he has patented and copyrighted many of his ideas. According to him, he didn't want to fall into the same trap that Walter Russell did, where Walter Russell published a book and then he gave it to all the universities, and then he watched as in the following years other people received Nobel Prizes for his work. So I suppose Terrence Howard is a little bit more protective of his discoveries. But it's another example of how the future is unfolding in surprising ways, and how the intellectuals, the empiricists, are that spirit, God, for lack of a better term, is playing this dance with the devil. And these hyper-intellectual, empirical individuals are coming out of the woodwork, and they are performing these, or revealing themselves to have been living these secret lives or double lives of phenomenal esoteric significance. But they've been doing so in secret. They've been doing so under the radar. And now they're appearing, they're coming out of the woodwork, and they're making a splash. Individuals like Dr. Hoffman, who is making him and his team of students at, I believe it's MIT, who are now coming forward straight out saying that consciousness is primary to reality, and that everything that we call reality, he calls it the VR headset, and that in fact consciousness is fundamental. Now, perhaps for ourselves, we say, yeah, okay, what else is new? Tell us something we didn't know. But you have to appreciate, for the mainstream and for mainstream materialist science, these are outright heretical statements. These are revolutionary concepts, revolutionary statements, and they cut at the very heart and soul of materialist science. And what Terrence Howard is going is he demands an audit of the whole of mathematics. For instance, he says that 1 times 0 is not 0. It cannot be 0. Because if I take my hand as 1 and I multiply it by nothing, if I put my hand through nothing, my hand doesn't disappear. My hand stays there. So 1 times 0 is at the very least 1. And 2 times 1 can't be 2, because multiplication is to multiply. And he said, anytime you multiply something, you have to end up with something greater than what you started with. So 2 times 1 cannot equal 2. At minimum, it has to equal 3. And he gives some better examples. You can look up the YouTube video. Just look up Terrence Howard mathematics, or and it's a compelling argument. It's a compelling statement. And there's something about the concept of 10, the concept of putting 1 and 0 together, where 0 is nothing, but then you can add a 0 to a 1 and make it 10 times nothing, I guess. In any case, what all of this is getting at, this is all this unfolding in real time on the level of humanity. We're witnessing a kind of ulm of life, a slow evolutionary process where fundamental underlying assumptions that we have made about the nature of reality are being challenged in ways openly and publicly that they never have been before. And the key to all of this is 1111. And more specifically, the as we believe we showed you, but we're still in the process of working this out. 1111 is also 22. And then the relationship between 1, 2, and 3. The law of 3 is the creative law of the universe. And we've expressed that, we've discussed that many, many, many times. And behind us is the 11. But the 11 that's 1 and 1, which is 2. Like 11 is 2. But when you take that 1 and that 1, that 11, and you bring it together, where that those 1 and 1, that 2 becomes 3, the relationship between 1, 2, and 3 is not fully comprehended, understood, or appreciated mathematically. Because we have this number 2, and in this number 2, we forget that 1 and 1 is 11. And that 1111 is 22. And the relationship between 22 and 11 actually unfolds the law of 3 and the law of all numbers. But base 10 mathematics is an illusion. It is a kind of lie. It is an illusion that we have told ourselves is real. But then all of material reality, all of physical reality is an illusion. It's Maya. So base 10 mathematics and Euclidean geometry is the mathematics of the illusion, of the simulation. But true mathematics has to reach beyond the limits of this simulation. And Terence Howard is making this point about there are no straight lines except in Euclidean geometry and except in our perception of this illusion. But in reality, there are no straight lines. Because, as he points out, all energy is in motion, and all motion expresses in waves, and all waves are curved. And in fact, they're circular, they're vortices. So if everything is curved, then he says, show me a straight line in the universe. It's interesting and it's fascinating, and it's all very nebulous, and we're in the process of all of this unfolding before our eyes, basically. but there is something that is germinating in all of this. And we know that the key is 1111. It is the relationship between 2 and 2 and 3, and how those come together to create. And we wish we could expound more on this and share more with you, but again, it's where this is just in the nebulous phase right now. It's all, we know there's something there, we just haven't yet excuse me, we haven't yet synthesized it. It hasn't crystallized yet. Let's get to some of your comments here. Tiffany shared with us a wind and a rainbow. And she says, hello, Star Freckles. We're not sure what Star Freckles is, or means. But anyway, hello, Tiffany. We're glad to have you with us. So we were not doing well for most of the week. If last Sunday was a high point, then we spent most of the week down in hell again. And we were actually tempted to cancel today altogether. But we decided instead to share with you this information that, because we did not know this about Terrence Howard. We had not been shown any of his videos before. They just appeared. And between Terrence Howard and Neil Hoffman, and I think his first name is Neil. It's Dr. Hoffman and Jordan Peterson, and then there's Jason at Archaics. There are many, many, many other people who keep showing up, and they keep showing up for us. Whether or not they've been around for years, that's, but they keep showing up for us, and that's not an accident. And they're all operating very much from an intellectual perspective. They're empiricists, they're materialists, they're highly intellectual. And again, what it's revealing is the convergence and the reconciliation between light and dark. The game is over. And when you finish a game, you and your opponent, you reset the board. We entitled today's talk, Road Ahead, and that with the implication that the future it's not some far off event or occurrence. We are in it. We are experiencing it now. The signs are everywhere. And for us, one of the most telling signs is precisely this dance with the devil that is taking place, this unlikely union or cooperation between dark side and light side, between Black Lodge and White Lodge. And how exactly that is taking place we can use our own experience as a case study where, likewise, we've been living the life that we've been living, certainly under the radar. And we've experienced living with an entity. We were, with a demon, and living with that. And also being a highly intellectual individual. And it's this dance with the devil. It's it's the two sides have to work together in some capacity for the sake of the next humanity on this planet, for the sake of resetting the board and continuing the game, for the next round of this game. And that this transition, this cooperation, this reconciliation process is happening now. It's not something that we're waiting for anymore. Tiffany says star freckles is meant as a term of endearment for everyone who's here. Nothing deeper than that. Star freckles. Okay. We'll go with that. Having said all of that, the remaining pieces on the board has to be wiped clean. We're going to use the chess example because it's the best example. But really, you can use any game. You have a starting state for that game. And when you reach the end of the game, you know you've reached the end. It's either you checkmate or a draw, or, right? You call it a draw or a stalemate, and there's no point in continuing anymore. But the remaining pieces, you sweep the board and then you reset the board. In the case of a humanity, we have many aspects which need to be swept away. And what we are finding is, with individuals like Terrence Howard showing up and going public with the fact that he has been working on this for 40 years. In the same way that we began meditating at the age of 5, he began working on the flower of life and working on what never made sense to him in mathematics, and working on solving those problems that he saw as just being nonsensical. This may be why I was never any good at mathematics, because it just did not compute with me. The language just didn't seem to make sense, as though it was completely arbitrary or made up, or that it wasn't true somehow. Language, on the other hand, which the intellects would argue is completely arbitrary and is completely made up. See, language made and still makes complete and perfect sense. And the more we meditate upon things like the tree of life that was given to us on Friday, not this past Friday, but our Good Friday, and we look at the runes and the orientation of the runes and the runic alphabets. See, Hungarian also had a runic alphabet before they adopted the Latin letters, the Roman letters. We had a runic alphabet, just like the Germanic people had a runic alphabet based on the Futhark. So did Hungary. And when you study language and you begin studying it in the context of the runes, the so-called arbitrary nature of language vanishes. And the nature of language as a metaphysical, scientific lexicon, almost like an operating system or a code, right? A coding language that all of reality exists in, because it is in the sounds of language, in those vibrations, in those frequencies that are being expressed auditorially, of course, but also symbolically in the runes themselves. And as they relate to the tree of life, you have this powerful and we dare say magical device. But magic is simply a way of describing the wise application of metaphysical science. It is the word magi means wise man. But the word majesty, right, means king. So we have this strange juxtaposition or relation between magi and the majesty. Majesty is the pinnacle, the crown. It is your majesty who wears the crown. That's in the crown chakra. The king, but we also have the magician in the tarot, who's the first card. And the short form of majesty is mage, and mage is synonymous with magi in terms of a magician. And in the Bible, when they talk about the three kings, they're the three magi, it's all related. It's all really, we're talking about the same thing. Well, who is the magician and who is the king? Who is the one who sits upon the throne? Who has the power, and the ultimate power is the power of creation. That power is embodied in the word art. Art. to create. Art is what we call that which has been created. But art has another meaning. It's an ancient meaning. And it survives in the Our Father, right? Our Father who art in heaven. Art means to be. And when we look at other words which bloom and blossom with art as their root word, we have words like articulate, to express. And why is it express? To articulate, to artfully speak, and to have artistry. Why is it express and expose? Because if in that pinnacle position you have art, to be, in that second position on the tree of life, you have Thor. Odin's son, the lightning which descends down the tree of life from that first position, from the Father. Art, Thor, Arthur. And Arthur carries Excalibur, the X, the cross, the Christ. That Hey Zeus, that lightning bolt, which Zeus hurls from atop Mount Olympus down to earth to express itself. God becomes flesh. And all of this is encoded in the words and the language that has survived for millennia. And when we look into different languages, we find the same patterns and the same sounds being expressed and the same symbols, especially in ancient Hebrew and of course other languages. And we have the same runes being expressed in different character sets. So for example, the rune Otila, meaning at last, the last, right? It's also Attila, Otila, but it's also Omega, which is the last letter in the Greek alphabet, right? The Greek alphabet begins with alpha and ends in omega. And we have in the Futhark, we have, and in the Hebrew alphabet, we have Aleph. And in the many alphabets, we have A. We have the Alpha and Omega. And in the Futhark, we have the same symbols and ending with Otila, the one who comes at last. And we talked about this last week. all of this has a foundational reality to it, an objective metaphysical science of sound, of the Logos. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And one's ability, one's capacity to be able to see and to decode language in this way, one develops the ability, the capacity to read the book of life, because all of reality is encoded in language. That God, that Thor, and if you eliminate the T's, then you have, instead of art, you have Ra, and instead of Thor, you have Hor, as in Horus, Ra and Horus. And then in the third position, you have Isis. Or to the Gnostics, she is Pistis. Because when we're looking at the tree of life and we're looking at the lines that make up, that connect the Sephira on the tree of life, then what we have are these shapes, these letters appearing. Well, let's go back here, right? This is a bit. Let's move our three. Oops, no, we grabbed the wrong thing. Okay, let's move 1 and 2 and 3 stars. These are 3 pentagrams, right? You see, there's a pentagram on the top, and then here the vowel sounds of the chakras: E, E, A, O, U, M, and S. See if we can try to see if we can make it just a little bit smaller. And what if we? No, that's not much better, is it? Okay, so you know, you have here, if we just take we'll just hide some of these, make it a little bit easier to see. Why don't we just, and that one. Okay, so you see here there's a P, and then and then the I, and then the S. So here at the top, we can call this art, but we can also call this Ra, because it's the same letters, right? Because we have an R, and then this is, we can call Thor, or we can call it Horus. And then this one, it's, right, Isis, the Divine Mother. We can make that bigger, you guys can see it. So, right, art or Ra. Now it's, you just turn the letters around, right? Thor or Horus and Isis. Now the interesting thing is that all of these letters then, like, so when you think of here, let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Can we do this? No, it's not letting us do that. PowerPoint is good for many things, but not for what we're trying to do here. Let's see if we have better luck just drawing it by hand. So you're all probably familiar with this shape. The Pax Christus. This shape comes directly from the tree of life. So we have S's, we have I's, we have R's. So the name Arthur, as in the King Arthur legend. And we have, of course, T's. And we have the H. And we can draw O's like this. We can draw O's like this. These are all these are all runes directly coming out of the tree of life. So Isis can be Pistis, as in Pistis Sophia. Humanity needs to return to this. We need to rediscover, reestablish this foundation of our language, of our communication. We have lots of individuals who are, their slogans are "Make America Great Again," make this great again, make that great again. Well, we have to make our language great again, pure. Coming back for a moment, you know what? Before we continue, we're gonna there's some comments, questions here. Benjamin Ochoa says, "Hi Atlas. Yes, CJ Smith, another YouTube creator, made a new video titled The Ancient Battle Between Light versus Dark, clarifying it among current events." And Tiffany says, "Am I incorrect in thinking that it's the letters but hold the power of the logos, which is the spoken word?" Am I incorrect in thinking that it's the letters but hold the power of the logos, which is the spoken word? They are one and the same. Because if you read the written word, you're reading it in your mind, you're reading it in your head, those vibrations are happening, the sounds are occurring, but on the mental plane. So that's what we discussed in the past. You can do mantras mentally, and they're more powerful if you do them mentally than if you do them out loud. Because, of course, if you do them out loud, then they can have an effect. But the purpose of mantra is to have an effect internally. That's the goal, is we want to alter and empower the foundation of reality. So what we see out there is an illusion, it's a projection. So spoken word, written word, it's all mental. And the shapes and the sounds go together as hand in glove. That's why the R is an R no matter where you go, and an S is an S, or a sh no matter where you go. These are universal. But we want to show you one thing here. If we superimpose a star, like we know that that's a pentagram, okay? So we can superimpose a star there. But we also have, that's 5 points, right? But we also have 5 points in the middle of the tree of life. Because we hid Da'at, and Da'at should never be hidden. This is one of the things that we're here to fix, is that there's a so-called hidden sphere on the tree of life to give us 10 Sephirah, but there aren't 10 Sephirah, there are 11 Sephirah. Da'at should never be hidden. That A, that in the throat, that's the creative power of the word. That's the Christ, right? That's that trident, that E that you can see there. That's the trident. That's the upper Trinity manifesting and creating. And one of the things that it creates is our being. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then this is what an upright human being is supposed to look like. This third star, this third upright pentagram. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's 5, but it's pointing upright. Now, here's the thing though. These Sephirah, these worlds on the tree of life, they're actually combined into the three-dimensional reality. This is our body, or this is Malkut down here. Okay, so this is Malkut down here. So if you take this star and turn it upside down, look what happens. These 2 points, like if these were separate Sephirah, look where the topmost tip of the star is. This is that inverted pentagram. But an upright human being, let's do it properly here. Is ruled by God's will, by willpower. This is their innermost intimate Christ, this X that connects their being with their heart, with their conscience, their consciousness, and their mind. And this pentagram is this middle pentagram, this higher self. This is our true self, our higher self. An upright human being is plugged into that through willpower, the sixth dimension. These 2 Sephirah, right? We don't draw it this way. We don't draw the tree of life this way, because these 2 Sephirah are the 1, 2, 3 dimensions. So these get added down in here. But they're there. They are there. So when we're asleep, when this humanity fell asleep, we fell into the third dimension. Humanity is, by definition, a 4D entity. A true human being is plugged into the will of their innermost being, and a true human being can enter or leave their physical body whenever they choose. A true human being is not trapped, is not stuck in the third dimension. Yeah, Benjamin points out here, X marks the spot. You know, when this was revealed to us on Good Friday, what we received was this. Arthur Isis X. That's Arthur is Christ. And X here, and X here, and X here. This is what we're revealing here with these four pentagrams. Is that at the heart of these three pentagrams? At the heart of these three pentagrams is the Christ, is the X. It's just a shame in a way that the three-dimensional reality, 3D reality, has been reduced graphically to put these two sephira together as one, right? In Malkuth. Right? So there's actually three sephira in here. But they're combined because as we go down the tree of life, everything condenses, everything crystallizes. It becomes more dense. But so you see, all this was revealed to us, and it is this aspect that humanity is fallen, is inverted, and the top of this pentagram is stuck in the physical body, in three-dimensional reality. And look around you. What do you see? You see 3D reality. That's all you see. You can't see the fourth dimension unless you're clairvoyant. And even then, maybe you see auras, maybe you see, some things, but you can't see the fullness of the fourth dimension. We're stuck. We're trapped. We're in prison. And as much as we're inverted like that, what rules us? What is the top of our, right? It's not God's will, because the pentagram is detached. We're fallen. So what rules us? We're ruled by emotions, we're ruled by our thoughts, and we're ruled by our desires. We're ruled by sex. Not God's will, not our innermost Christ. Because we're down in here. We're stuck here. And these are the four bodies of sin. These are the four bodies that egos, our shaitan, our individual Satan, tempts and messes with, because egos can get into our mind, egos can get into our emotions, egos can certainly get into our energy, our sexual center, our vitality, and of course, egos are in our body. But if we're disconnected from God's will, we're fallen asleep. And this God's will, this node, this sixth dimension here, this is the human soul. This is also telema, which means willpower, but it's the human soul. If we're disconnected from that, then of course we're disconnected from our consciousness and we're disconnected from our innermost being. That's a big mess. Can I erase all the ink on this screen? I wonder. I can do it like this, I suppose. No, I can't. Can I? Oh, good. I can I can erase the ink like that. There. Benjamin says, when you said that a true human being can leave his body if he wants to, it reminds me of the Bible verse which says, "For as the Father has life in himself, so also he has granted the Son to have life in himself." So let's see if we can put a so a true human being is aware of the fourth dimension, and he's awake in the sixth dimension. That's a Buddha. That's a true human being. Now, our higher self is always here, but our goal on the spiritual path is to graduate, right? We start here, but we're inverted, right? So our goal is to rise up and become an upright human being, okay, and know ourself. This is the first level is Buddhahood, the second level is mastery, and the third level is ascendancy. So this is a Buddha, this is a master, and this is begins as a master and ends as a resurrected master. And then finally we have an ascended master. But this is the unfoldment. These are the three mountains that Master Samael writes about on the path of self-realization, the path of Christification. He talks about the three mountains. These are the three mountains. Because if we just move these pentagrams aside, you have this mountain, and this mountain. Right? This is a mountain, and this is a mountain, and this is a mountain. Now, some people will draw these mountains differently, but we don't see a reason to do so, because From our point of view, the mountain is actually a pentagram. They're 3 pentagrams anyway, so you can call them 3 mountains if you'd like. But really, we're talking about becoming a 3-star general. It's the same, right? But in light of all of this, we have to understand that that's not where humanity is at, right? Humanity is here. This is where humanity is. And when we talk about Euclidean mathematics and a mathematics that keeps us hypnotized, mathematics that's the mathematics of the simulation that needs to be reinvented, rediscovered. And when we say that all of this, the science of letters, the science of language, right? Of the L, of the R, of the I, of the S, and the meaning of all of this. This needs to be rediscovered and relearned anew for humanity. It's precisely because humanity needs to understand all of this. This needs to be an essential aspect of everyone's education, because this is metaphysical science. And these names, right? So Arthur, Arthur, and we have the rune Otila. This is the rune Otila. That comes at last. And we have Thor's hammer, by the way. That's Thor's hammer. That's this shape. When we rediscover this and reapply this in a meaningful way in our art, in our storytelling, and in our science, we will advance more in a decade than we have in the last 200 years, maybe more. And we will recover and rekindle much of what was lost. But the mathematics has to be focused on the fact that there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 Sephira on the tree of life, not 10. There are 11. We dispute and deny that this Sephira is, quote, hidden. Yes, it's in the ark. It's in the ark. This is the ark. But why it should be hidden, why it is, who made that decision arbitrarily? What? Just so they can have the number 10? Whereas all signs point to 1111. All signs point to 1111, which, by the way, is why we made this portrait, right? This slide. We made it portrait, not landscape, because we wanted to be able to show that there's an 11 down here. There's 11 up here, and there's 11 down here. There's 1111. This is absolutely fundamental. And reducing the tree of life in some way to the number 10 is incorrect. It's a mistake. It is a twisting, it's a perversion, it's a degeneration. Because there's a big problem with the number 10. We haven't put our finger on it, but mostly it's the idea that you can add 0 to something and get more than what that thing is. Like 1 is 1, I add 0 to 1 and I get 10. That's what 10 means. And that there's a fundamental problem with our base 10 mathematics based on that fallacy. It's the same way. 2 times 1 does not equal 2. It's just we haven't worked it out yet. We're working on it, and it hasn't revealed itself to us completely. We even have a friend he's a theoretical mathematician. We have plugging away at this to help us, because math is not our strong suit. But we know there's something in here, and we know we're right about the tree of life, because this was given to us, and this we know about, and the language and everything else, and how all of the sephira add together, come together to produce the chakras. So again, we can say X marks the spot, but not only does X marks the spot, but so do the crosses, so do the T's. Because an X and a T is the same symbol. It's Christ all the way down. It's Christ, 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 all the way down. Because a cross is a cross. It's the same, and that's why this symbol exists in all of those temples and shrines in Buddhism and Hinduism, because this the shape, the swastika, is demonstrating and showing it is these two crosses, but showing them in motion, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Those are the 4 lines of any cross. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you orient it like this, and now you're showing that in motion, so that this becomes this, becomes this, becomes this, becomes this, becomes this, and it's revolving, and that's why all of the chakras spin. They all rotate. That's all coming out of this representation of the energies as they unfold down into creation. Get rid of some of these. Get rid of some of this messiness. Okay, let's jump back here for a moment. We have some questions. Tiffany says, can you please quickly list the 3 bodies before the physical human crystallization? I just want to envision them as I listen to you. So we have our physical body. We have our vital body. Let's put these back on screen. Right? This is our physical body. right? That's our physical body. Then we have our vital body. Then we have our emotional body and our mental body. Let's see if we can. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are called the 4 bodies of sin. These are the ones that get attacked, possessed, exploited by our egos. And unfortunately, because we're fallen, um, our conscience, our consciousness gets bottled up inside of these 4 bodies. We become identified and attached to them as this being who we are, particularly our physical body. And so our willpower, our causal body, that's willpower, and our Buddhic body, our conscience, they get bottled up also inside of our physical body. This is what happens when we fall. We fall asleep. Our consciousness falls asleep. All of this happened during the fall of Lemuria. And so everything is focused on us becoming an upright human being and regaining this orientation and no longer being identified and attached to our physical body and to our sensations and desires that express themselves primarily through our physical body. Mr. E Mushroom says 10 is recurrence. We know what you mean by that. There is a problem with that, though. And the problem is a semiotic problem. And there is a fundamental disconnect. You especially see this when you plug in and you work with what are called the modulus and the multiplier, and you work with 10 as a modulus. It turns out that when you do so, none of the digits connect to any other digit. It's as if 10 doesn't exist, as if it's an illusion, like 0. So we haven't yet cracked this nut. All we know is that we've been given the answer. The answer is 1111. Now we have to work backwards from that answer to find the proof. That's where we're at. But we know what the answer is. It's irrefutable, right? Because it was given to us by the source itself. So we're not in the business of second guessing our looks. And all of the evidence in our life bringing us to this point is too, there's been too much at play for far too long, pointing us in this direction. It is simply a matter of now finding the mathematical proof that will substantiate why base 10 mathematics and Euclidean geometry keeps us trapped in the matrix. It's the math of the matrix. And since everything is illusion, it makes sense that anything, it makes total sense that if we're in Maya, we're in illusion, we're in the matrix. It makes total sense that 10 times any number is going to equal it's just going to equal 1, right? So it's, it doesn't matter, or 10 times, that's 1 plus 100 zeros. And the recurrence that you're describing, there's really only 1 to 9, and 10 resets back to 1. That's the recurrence that you're talking about. You're just going around and around and around and around and around. But in the Alm of life, we know that everything's a spiral, it's a vortex, which means you have to have, at some point, you have to have plus 2. And what's plus 2? What's 2? 2 is 1 plus 1. 2 is 11. But 10 is an illusion. Because if you count to 10, and then you keep going, you're not going to 11, you're going back at 1. Because 10 is just 1. So again, we haven't worked this out yet, but there is something here, and you can test this with your calculator, because there's a problem with the number 2, and there's a problem with our multiplication tables. And this is Terrence Howard brought this to our attention. And we could spend a moment to try to find the video where he talks about it. But basically, it's you take the square root of 2. You can do this with your calculator. If you grab your phone, you can do this with your calculator. You can do it with us, so you know we're not making anything up. Open up your calculator. Okay, we have it on scientific here, but you should be able to do it just on your regular calculator. And you take 2, right? You do the square root of 2. Why did that not work? Okay, hang on. Clear. No, that was x2. Sorry. So you take 2. You take the square root of 2, and you get this number, right? 1.414141414. Then you cube that. Okay, and you get 2.828445. Now, you divide this by 2, and you get the first number. This is what Terrence Howard points out. This is a loop, but this is mathematically impossible. Like, this is, according to our own math, this doesn't make any sense. Because if you take 3 and take the square root of 3, then cube that and divide it by 2, okay, the number is greater. Now, to take a square root of that and raise it to the power of 3 and divide it by 2, right? The number changes. But with 2, you take the square root of 2 and then raise it to the power of 3 and then divide it by 2, and you end up at the first number. So there's a problem with our math. There's a fundamental problem with our math. This is what Terrence Howard is suggesting, if not demanding, that he wants to have an audit of our mathematics, an audit of our Euclidean geometry, because he believes there's a fundamental flaw. Like, Andrea Gambioli says, "Hi Atlas, in the case of 3, you have to divide by 3 to obtain the same result." Right. Well, but still, the fact that you do that with, it doesn't make any logical sense that be happening that way. Again, I don't speak the language of mathematics. This had to be shown to me by Terrence Howard. So at the moment, I'm reliant on people who do understand mathematics and do speak the language of mathematics. I'm kind of beholden to them, which is why I'm suffering greatly trying to work out this mathematical problem, because I don't have a mathematical mind. I don't. I have a semiotic mind. I have a linguistic mind. I understand language and I understand logic. But when you throw the numbers into it, the numbers have always thrown me for a loop, because the numbers have never really made sense to me, except when it comes down to simple things like, yeah, like there's something about this base 10 mathematics, which is all very neat and tidy for us, but there's something off with it, and I can't put my finger on it. But what I do know is that the answer is 11. This is the answer. This is the key. How it all fits together, I'm not quite there yet. But Tiffany asks, can the number 10 also be thought of as the serpent swallowing its own tail? I just got a flash of that. That's the Ouroboros. And this, you're onto something here, Tiffany, because we've also surmised the Ouroboros in relation to this, right? And the Ouroboros, one way that we can understand this is you have to have balance, and you have light and you have dark. Light shines, dark consumes. Leah de Contour, yeah, Ouroboros has infinity. That's what we're showing now, right? And Benjamin says math and metaphysics. So you see, the darkness can only consume the light. That's its job. So the light shines, and then the darkness consumes it. That's the Ouroboros consuming itself. It's growing, and then it has to be this way. You know, we have the oh, that's a terrible. Let's try that again. Let's do, yeah, okay. It's this, And then, okay, so we have this symbol, of course. It's the same symbol. It's being expressed in a different way. Azazel says, sorry I'm late. Had another hellish week. Yeah, you and I both, brother. And this live stream, I think, is reflective of that, actually. Um, we've just been knocked off our feet, right? And it's like the whole foundation of reality has been yanked out from under us, and all we've been given is this. And say, okay, now you go figure it out. And we've been talking about Terrence Howard and his videos, and about mathematics, and about he wants an audit of mathematics. There's a fundamental problem in mathematics, and I think part of the problem lies in base 10 mathematics, because 10 is an illusion. And we can show this with hang on a second, we just got to find this website that we've been using to play around with this stuff. And where is it? Caspian Adventure. No. Larx Pro. It's always the case, right? Whenever you actually need to find something. Clio Flex. Caspian Adventure. Oh, you're joking. I can't believe it's just. No, that's not it. No. We should have saved. We knew we should have saved the. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. So, and Azazel says he's also had many 11/11s lately, and he says I'm not superstitious, but man, everywhere, every day. Yeah. Okay. So what we're showing here, right, and what we're saying about the number 10, this is a mathematical phenomenon called modular multiplication, and we won't get into the weeds of the mathematics of it, because we really don't, we can't do justice to the explanation. But there is an excellent video that will explain this. But people use this to describe this. This is Nikola Tesla's famous 369. Now, what you have here is the relationship between 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, and 5, and this loops around. Okay, this loops around, and then 3 and 6 loop around, and then 9 is on its own. And Tesla said that if you want to know the secrets of the universe, you have to comprehend the significance of 3, 6, 9. So there's a YouTube video that we watched that describes and explains the mathematics behind this, and it also describes and explains, you know, these are showing the loops, but when you change this number, these numbers, like for this, the modulus is 7,417, and the multiplier is 240. When you change the colors according to the lengths of the loops, you get something that looks remarkably like a chakra. You have the lotus petals, the famous lotus petals of a chakra. Now, what's interesting to me is that if you set the modulus to 10 and the multiplier to 2, or sorry, the multiplier to, whoops, didn't want that to happen. Was it 10 and 10? I can't remember what it was now. There, okay, go away. 2, right? No, 11, 11. Right. So if we go down to, you see, if you have a multiplier of 11 but a modulus of 1, you get nothing. But if you go to and increase this to 11, now you have the relationship between 11 and 1, 11 and 2, 11 and 3. But so 11, 11 gives you this configuration. And if you increase this to 22 and 11, now you have a very interesting configuration where you have two nodes, as above, so below, and you have the interference pattern of the connections, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 intersections, but 6 intersections gives you 7 spaces in between those intersections. And this is the relationship between numbers 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, which is 3, because the intersection of 1 and 2, you get 3. You get this creative phenomenon. And if you increase this to 99 over 11, oh, sorry, that's, wait, was it 99? You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we were playing around with this. There is something here. There is something going on here. And if you reduce that number to 10, you have no relationships. And if you do 1/2 of 10, which is 5, you have no relationships. That's using a multiplier of 11. If you use a multiplier of 2, things change. And this, of course, is the famous Mandelbrot set. None, line width, automatic, coloring, loops. Oh, okay. There we go. That's what we were looking for, the colors. So this is that famous shape that shows up in all of nature. But again, it's and it shows up in the Mandelbrot set. So, but then you have this phenomenon of the 9 and the 2. So there's something going on here. We don't know what it is exactly, but there is something. Then if you go to 11, then you have this essentially the 10 digits, but then the 11 stands on its own. And this is one loop. And you get 1, 2, 4, 8, 5, 10, 9, 7, 3, 6, 1. And the 11 stands on its own. So this is 1111 because 2 is 1 and 1. But if you actually do 1111, you get this. There is something here. This also, by the way, if it that just looks beautiful how it sits completed, because that's the Phoenix. But see, this then is base 10 mathematics, but the 11 is not being accounted for. The 11 sits on its own in the same way that in this configuration, 9 sits on its own. And the 1, 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, 1, that's the loop. And then 3 and 6 bounce back and forth. But then the 9 sits on its own. This is what people who are obsessed with Tesla, this is what they're obsessed about. But, you know, we can't get our minds off of this 1111 because, again, we don't second guess what we've received. This is also 11.6, by the way, which is really interesting because, you know, this is 12.6. And that looks an awful lot like 2211. Do you see there's an interesting relationship because 12 is not half of 22 and 6 is not half of 11. And yet their relationship is, it's, you know, because if we double this, if I go 24, right, and there's 24 and 6, but now we have 4 points. If I go 24 and 12, oh look, we do get that, we do get the same thing, we get something very similar. There is something going on here, right? That's 2412, that's 22, that's 2212, that's 2211. Like this 2212 has the nexus in the center. But again, there's something going on here with the 1s and 2s. And the key is this. This is the key, 1111. So if you guys want to play around with this, I'll give you the link, and yeah, I'll put the link in the chat, and I'll throw it here on screen. The other thing that I'll do is let's see. No, there's that. Yeah, this. We can't play this for you because of copyright and whatever, but we'll give you the link to a mathologer video explaining the modular multiplication. So there's this YouTube video. Anyway, it's the link is in the chat as well. If you do a search for Tesla's 369 and vortex math, is this really the key to the universe? In this video, this mathematician explains all of this, and he explains how this is working and what's actually happening, why we get the 3636 and so on. And so he explains all the math part behind it. We can't do that, again, because I just don't speak math. I really don't. So but you guys can watch this video and then play around with that tool that we've been playing around with and see what you can come up with. That if you come up with anything that's striking, right? Because eventually, yeah, you go to 99 out of a 99 over 11, and you get the same loop as you get with 9 over 11 and 9 over 2. So there is a relationship, a fundamental relationship here between the number 2 and the number 11, right? Because this is 9 and 2. This is 9, 11. It's this exact same pattern. And if we go 99 over 11, it's the same loops contained within 100, contained within a modulus of 99. But this is a real kicker. How is this mathematically possible that 9 over 11 is the same as 9 over 2? It must be because 11 is intimately connected to the number 2. And it makes sense because 1 plus 1 equals 2. But 1 and 1 is also 11. Because if 10 is the great repeater, if 10 is recurrence and 1 and 0 is 1, then 10 plus 1 is 11, but that's 2. And Azazel says 9 and 11 looks like 2 towers collapsing. Is that what you see? Okay, fair enough. This is the here are the relationship. So 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, and that's the loop. But this is fascinating to me, the relationships here. 9, and by the way, 911, I mean, here in North America, 911 is what we press on the telephone for emergency. And this and the relationship, because 9 plus 2 is 11. So that 9 over 2 or 9 over 11 gives you the same result. Again, there are semiotic relationships between the numbers here that are deeper and more profound than what the Euclidean mathematics states. It's just we haven't unpacked it yet. We haven't gotten there yet. We're still just, again, all of this is like a nebulous form, and like the Alm of Life, every revolution we're getting a little more piece of the puzzle. So this week it was Terence Howard showing up and talking about the flower of life and talking about the multiplication as an additive function. that how can you multiply 2 by 1 and just get 2? And he was explaining it like if you have um, two things and you multiply those two things once, don't you get 4? Like, because you're multiplying. If you multiply something, you're making more of something. That's what it means to multiply. So if you multiply something by 2, you're doubling it. So if you have 2 of something, you multiply it. So, but he was like, if you multiply it by 1, you're adding 1, as opposed to multiplying it by 2, in which case you're doubling it. Or if you multiply it by 1, you're doubling it. I can't remember exactly how he was putting it, but he was definitely onto something. He was definitely onto something. Azazel says, well, if you see them as two towers falling, it's precisely what happened to World Trade Center. Yeah, sure. Yeah. And he says, and then it was being called Ground Zero. That's true. And he says, so that explains our week perfectly. It sounds like there's a story there. We had one hell of a week as well. Not getting into any details. It had nothing to do with anything happening out there. It's just, the alm of life, right? We gotta, if Sunday was a highlight, we had to go back down into hell, and we did. So why are we mentioning all of this, or why are we talking about all this again? Not least because this is what's eating away at us right now, and it's like we have to crack this nut. But it's also because we have a very strong feeling that humanity has what you call a second wind. Would you call it a second wind, or is it a last gasp of greatness before the fall? Or is everything that we're working on here is it, are we gathering our knowledge, our to put into the ark to preserve for the next humanity? We don't have an answer to that. We don't. Leah says, well, there was that huge solar flare. Well, there was that. But in all fairness and all truth, we were all already feeling like crap at the beginning of the week. So we certainly didn't go through our hell this week because of the solar event. And we also didn't get out to see any aurora borealis, although people were taking pictures and showing it from all around. But we had overcast skies, so no, I don't know. Maybe you could attribute something to that, but in our case, we certainly don't feel that. It's we don't need any external causes for our descents into hell. Not myself anyway. I don't need any external cause for that. I've had plenty of bouts of severe depression without any external cause whatsoever. So it was just that's just the way it was for us this week. But if you keep an eye on what's being revealed, what's being disclosed, and YouTube is a good proxy for this as anything to gauge what's being exposed and what's being disclosed. With each passing week, there seems to be more movement towards a kind of a shift taking place. But at the same time that's taking place, there is also a great deal of rumblings around conflict. And there seems to be escalations of what's the right word here? Mistrust, distrust. And maybe diplomatic unease, diplomatic tensions. Things are becoming more intense, and things are becoming more kinetic. If anything, this solar flare, like the eclipse beforehand, this solar flare, if anything, is going to be adding to the intensity, the intensification that we're all going to be experiencing. And when you intensify the kinetic energy, the fire behind the motion, then the pendulum swings become more intense, become more extreme. Leah says, I can relate. And Supin Kasper says, modulus 432 and multiplier 145 looks special. Let's share that with everybody. It does indeed. It looks very interesting. Look, we can play around with this all day. Let's kill the arrows. And you will see repeating patterns. And some of the patterns you will see are like, they're mind-blowing. You'll get 3D images and all kinds of stuff. And he says, haha, he says, I will, haha, this is amazing. So if you like math and if you like things like this, this is like, here's 58 and 145. Like we were showing earlier, this is the same type. So that's 4 and see the 4 and 5 is 9, but that's 10. So this is the same type of phenomenon as when we did 22 and 11. It's just more nodes. So if you like this kind of stuff, this is endless amusement, no doubt. But the significance of it is what we're trying to get at. What are we seeing here? What are we actually unraveling or uncovering? And really, it's meditation that's required. And it's just we're in hell right now. It's meditation is just not happening for us. When we're just in a really, really, really dark place this week. So, but we wanted to share all of this with you and remind you to keep your eye out, and also show you what we're working on and say, look, if you're into any of this stuff, you're into looking into this on your own, Terrence Howard, look at his videos, but also, pick up Walter Russell's book, A New Concept of the Universe, or any of Walter Russell's books, because there are signs and hints and clues that have been left for us. And it's just a matter of us uncovering them like any archaeologist would. And just as Azazel was seeing 11:11 all week, and once this has been impressed upon you, and you're like, okay, not only do you start seeing it everywhere, but it's like, okay, but it's trying to tell me something. It's trying to show me something. It's trying to get me to step through those gates, step through that portal, that 11 that's behind us, which, by the way, the Japanese saw fit to construct their torii gates as an 11:11. It's not just enough for one crossbar, they have two. So it's 11:11, and they're perpendicular to each other. They form crosses. What's the significance of that? And, it's not lost on us that a cross, an X, is 4 line segments. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 11:11. So there are so many different ways that this expresses and shows up, but the significance of it, it's the key to everything, but finding the lock and turning the key is another matter, right? Tiffany says, globally, we are in the year of the dragon, and it's showing in all its glory. Other things were showing up this week, including some prophecies, Nostradamus and others. And many of these prophetic visions see a world war breaking out this year. We don't want to be all doom and gloom, but 2024 is going to be a year of massive change. It's going to be a year of like there's a lot of stuff in the air, and we can feel it, we can sense it. It's just, it's Azazel says, oh crap, yeah, I forgot to make the adversary cake. The adversary cake? Maybe because 2024, well, 2 and 4 is 6, but 2024 is 8. The best thing that we can do is prepare ourselves. And there's only one way to prepare ourselves for the unknown and for change and disruption and chaos. And that is, we want to be as firmly rooted and grounded in our own source of peace as we can be. And that's practicing the Alm of Life. That's following our bliss. That's observing ourselves, remembering ourselves, meditating, and following the will of our higher self, the will of our innermost intimate Christ. And putting our faith and trust in our higher self. And trusting that if we do the work on ourself And if we strive to be, just be, and allow what needs to come into our life to arrive. So the striving that we're looking for shouldn't be striving out there. It should be striving in here. And allow what's out there to arrive. Focus on being who and what we are. And then let that which we have no control over, let it play out as it needs to, as we need it to, because it will. Including whatever is coming our way as a global civilization, in Europe, North America, wherever we are in the world, locally, but also in our lives. There might be great turbulence, there might be great conflict, great change. But one of the hopeful signs that we have been seeing is that there is rhyme and reason to it, and that there is reason to be hopeful. And again, it comes down to this recognition that we are experiencing not just an apocalypse or a revelation, but a reconciliation. And that aspect has never really been emphasized in any of the so-called end time prophecies. Sure, they talk about the raising of the dead, they talk about rapture, they talk about the redemption of souls, and this type of thing, but reconciliation between light and dark, this is, as to the best of our knowledge, is completely devoid. It's completely absent from any of the prophecies about the end times. Maybe because they focus so much on destruction that maybe even if they did have some kind of inkling as to what was taking place there, they couldn't get past, or they couldn't rationalize, or they couldn't reconcile, ironically, they couldn't reconcile the destruction on the one hand, and the death and suffering on the one hand, and that this was all being agreed upon, or this is all like part of the plan, and yet it is and it isn't. So it's very strange. It's very strange because we read a lot of prophecy in our younger days. We were obsessed with end time prophecies for a long, long time, and then we abandoned it after a while because we felt we had gotten out of it everything that we could. But now that we're in it, we see something happening, which we never encountered. Nobody ever wrote about. Nobody ever mentioned. And because it's not apparent, it's not obvious to those who don't have the eyes to see and the ears to hear it. But to us, it's self-evident because we see it everywhere. We see these individuals showing up. Individuals like Jason from Archaics, who with all the things that he says, his focal point still comes back to essentially the essence of the Alm of Life, which is follow the guidance of your oversoul. And that you're living in a construct. You're living in essentially the matrix. And so you follow the guidance of your oversoul. That's the most important thing. That's follow the guidance of your innermost being. And let nature take its course. Let whatever needs to unfold. Because it's unfolding, quote unquote, perfectly imperfect. You'll even hear New Agers talk like this, and now it's almost hard to hear us echo their words. But there is a plan, there is a rhyme and reason to it all, and our job is to remain balanced and whole and one with ourself as all of it unfolds, and to again follow our higher self. And if there's something for us to learn in this process, then we need to take advantage of this process and learn what we need to learn. Azazel says, we said that the adversary is about to deserve some cake. Maybe we might have missed that comment earlier. So the adversary is about to deserve some cake. Okay. And Archer says, both light and dark are adversaries toward each other. So let everyone enjoy cake. Reconciliation. Yeah. So this is what keeps showing up. And it's, again, the best way we can describe it is at the end of the chess match. Win, lose, or draw, at the end of the chess match, both players reset the board. Azazel says, you missed the previous comment of mine. Well, we got the one about, oh crap, I forgot to make the adversary cake. So, yeah, before that was just 2 towers and other things. So maybe we, and then he said, we said that the adversary is about to deserve some cake. So again, we apologize, Azazel. We're not 100%. By no means are we 100% today. We've had a week from hell. We're still there. So we're just basically, as much as anything, expressing our frustration and our oh, this one. Well, when we refer to dragon to the adversary in Norse mythology. Okay. Okay. All right. Tiffany says, I will throw this out there for this year of 2024. This is a great year to practice valiant nature of our will to reclaim and retrieve our pearl from the dragon. It's definitely, if you're going through hell, whatever you're going through, it's it's the only place where you can recover your treasure. Azazel agrees. So yeah, the dragon, that's the Arkenstone in The Hobbit, right? Smaug guards not only the hoard of gold, but he guards the Arkenstone, which is the power of the dwarves, but the power of to rule that dwarven kingdom in the mountain, under the mountain. And she says it's time to be the pearl. It's definitely an opportunity. And if this year delivers the kinds of challenges and changes that people are saying it will, then it will deliver for all of us many opportunities to face our dragon, our dragons in some cases. And if you remember The Hobbit, you know that Bilbo and Smaug, they have a battle of wits. Azazel says that Smaug scene is recommended, right? It's when the Hobbit and the dragon meet, because it's a battle of wits. It's the same type of battle that he has with Gollum, right? Over the ring. It's because he's a hobbit, right? He's not going to fight Smaug, but they have a battle of wits. Again, it's like what we were mentioning a few weeks ago when we talked about Bond, James Bond, and his arch nemesis. It's a battle of wits between them. They're gentlemen spies and gentlemen villains, arch villains. So there's always that element between the protagonist and the antagonist. And when you observe yourself, you know that your adversary is playing mind games with you and playing emotional manipulation with you, and is playing hide and seek in your body like ours is. You know how we were complaining about our shoulder for the longest time? Well, then it moved into our hip, and then it decided to split and move into our left knee and back to our right shoulder. So we were talking to our father, and our father says, "Oh, you inherited that from us." It's actually a real thing that doctors know about. They call it malignant arthritis. So malignant meaning spreading or moving, and arthritis meaning arthritis, inflammation. So it's a malignant inflammation. And my dad suffers from it. And he says, well, you just inherited it from me. So he doesn't, I say, well, he doesn't know what it really is, right? It's a demon going from here to there. And it's just, it's when it goes into our hip, then it's really hard to sleep, right? Because it doesn't matter if we sleep on our left side, that's why it hurts. If we sleep on our right side, that's why it hurts. And we don't sleep well on our back. So it makes it really difficult. We keep waking up because of the pain. So yeah, so it's this when we face our adversaries, it's a battle of wits. It's like hide and seek in our body, or it's mind manipulation, or it's emotional manipulation. So yes, Bilbo and Smaug. Yeah, go and watch that scene from The Hobbit. And and then observe yourself and play that scene out in your life against your own Smaug, our own demons. This is the worse things get, the greater opportunity there is for us to exorcise that which is triggered by things going to hell in a handbasket around us. And at the same time, though, be observant and watch for the breadcrumbs. Watch for the signs that have been left for us on the path. Because for us, even though we were having a week from hell, these Terrence Howard videos that popped up, and these other videos that keep popping up on our feed, in a strange way, trust the algorithm, right? Keep an eye out. Allow for what's showing up. Take a chance on what's showing up. It might be showing up for a reason. And recognize that if the Black Lodge and the White Lodge are reconciling and working together during this transitional period, then the mechanical algorithm, which is Holy Black Lodge, well, that'll be working in our favor as well. Because if you have a reconciliation and Black Lodge and White Lodge are working together, then the algorithm can be working in your favor. That doesn't mean to take it at face value, or take what everybody says to you at face value, or what any rational mind says at face value, because there are still elements of the game being played. So this is a subtle facet that there are different levels of the game being played, and there are different levels of activity and the different levels of activity are defined by different characteristics of activity. So you will see a lot of material popping up on your feed talking about the chosen. But just because there is reconciled and cooperative activity on the sides of both divine and mechanical nature for the sake of those chosen, that doesn't mean that the Black Lodge is not acting upon the masses and the sleeping masses in a way that's precipitating their destruction, because that's their job. So when you see, for example, Taylor Swift mesmerizing and hypnotizing an entire new generation of young people, and she's using all of this demonic imagery and all of this black magic, she is not there for the benefit of the majority. There will be individuals who see that, see through that, recognize what that is, and commit themselves to resist that, and recognize that they need to embrace Christ, if nothing else, right? It will harden it will galvanize their integrity and their commitment to goodness and truth and beauty and kindness, and they will recognize, what Taylor Swift is. And it's very funny, you compare, these useful idiots of the Black Lodge, you compare the so-called satanic music of today, the satanic musicians of today, to what they were in the 1980s, like these heavy metal bands, and it's this crazy how subtle it's gotten, right? It's I mean, there's still death metal bands, but I mean, you get what you pay for, and there it's obvious, it's blatant, it's right, but it's like, it's so superficial and it's so obvious. It's like, nah, it's like they're just playing dress up. Like, that's the distraction. No, it's the Taylor Swifts of this world that you have to worry about, right? Because the last thing that we ever knew about Taylor Swift was that she was this, adorable girl next door, like this pure girl next door kind of um, persona. Like her whole thing was that she was that's was my understanding of Taylor Swift. Now I find out that Taylor Swift is doing, like, demonic satanic rituals in her concerts and whatnot. It's entertainment. What are you going to say? It's Hollywood. It's the music industry. Azazel says, yes, his sister is a Taylor Swift fan. And Supin Kashmir says, can you tell us something about the Saturn moon matrix? Does it have to do with what we see in the media? And why are the Black Lodge people so much into Saturn and black sun worship? Saturn is always, or has been associated with, Satan for a long, long time. But if you want to ask us about the Saturn moon matrix, we can't tell you about that because we don't know anything about that. So Um, in terms of why the Black Lodge people are into Saturn and Black Sun worship, and that's, you know, that's for them to tell you. I mean, I really don't know, other than the fact that I know that Saturn is related to Satan, and that they worship Satan as an externalized deity, which is kind of strange. In the same way that people worship God as an externalized entity, which is strange, because neither Satan nor God exist outside of us. So associating it with the planet Saturn and the moons of Saturn and this and that and the other thing, um, there may be truth to that, but again, that's not our area of study. That's not our area of expertise. So we can't advise you on that. We can't give you any information on that. Azazel says, yeah, I listened to the obvious parts. And Archer says, Taylor is apparently Anton Levy's daughter. So it makes sense. Look it up. Okay, so this is something I didn't know. That Taylor is Anton LaVey's daughter. That's, you know what? That there's got to be a YouTube video about that. There's got to be several on that. If that's true, we have not heard that, but you know what? That would make sense, actually. If that would make sense. And Azazel says black metal is a Nordic thing too. Yes, we know. There's a YouTube channel that we will watch, and one of the fellows there is from Norway, and one of his favorite band is it Ramstad? I think we got that right. Ramstad, something. It's like a death metal band or like a black metal, whatever. That's his favorite band, and he's like an upstanding guy with family, children, and he's in finance. He's like, you would never think of it. Like, to hear him speak, you would never think of it or imagine that his favorite music is a death metal band. But there it is. Leah de Contour says, supposedly cloned. That may be stretching it. I don't know if I would believe that out of hand, but then again, stranger things have happened, so who knows? Who knows? Taylor Swift, the clone. Who knows? It may very well be. May very well be. Azazel says, yeah, haha, he says, yeah, in merchandise, they're like the kindest, sweetest people, and on scene, complete beasts. Yeah, on stage. Yeah. It's like, it's very interesting. It's very interesting how these heavy metal musicians, not always, but often you will find that they really are like the totally nicest people in real life. They're just like really kind, and it's almost as if for them their music and on stage was, it's like them expressing something, or it's like therapy, because they can't behave like that in real life. But surely that that you know music, that screeching and anger and that noise that they make, that's coming from them, and that's what they're bringing into the world. And Azazel says, yeah, it's therapy for me as well. uh there's something about it. We even for ourselves, although we can't listen to it loud anymore. We admit that, but Queen is certainly not death metal, but for us growing up, it was bands like Queen and Rush, and but then it was the real kicker was Guns N' Roses. That's the one that really got to us because of the musicality of it. Like Axl Rose was a classically trained musician, just like the members of Metallica. So Metallica has a lot of musicality to it, but Guns N' Roses, especially with their Use Your Illusion albums, Axl was taking the band into really like orchestral type songs. So, but we never could get into like the heavy death metal, heavy metal. Like there was a certain thing that just became like when things crossed a line just into noise. That's when we checked out. Supin Kashper says, if you want someone to see the counterpart to Taylor Swift, Rihanna, and that type of satanic circus, go check out Dark Whispers album Realms of the Unseen. Okay, Realms of the Unseen. Something to some homework for us. And Azazel says, yeah, but when we have like panic attacks, then we convert to classical music to calm down. And Supin Kashper says, full of sacred geometry, numerology, and frequency, harmonizing frequencies. So he's referring back to album Realms of the Unseen by Dark Whispers. All right. So listen, everyone, we're going to call it a day early today. Hopefully you don't mind. We're not going to go to 4 hours, and certainly you can probably appreciate why not. If you have any more questions or comments, please feel free to ask. We wanted to keep you abreast of what's going on. We were not at our best today, but that's because we're in hell, and you guys know that has to happen on a regular basis. It's the alm of life. We have to go up and down, and there's no way around that. But that part of our hell here is being confronted by this mathematics. And for us, this mathematics has always been like a monkey on our back. It's always been like a kind of adversary for us. We were always very good at math until we hit high school, and we hit algebra and calculus and like the serious math. The easy math, that was easy for us. But when we hit the hard math, we really hit the wall and the limits of our math ability. So there's something about what's going on right now. We're facing this like Goliath, and there's this mammoth Goliath mathematical problem. It is a fundamental thorn in the side of humanity at the very foundational level, and we're just trying to work that out. So we might be down in hell for a while, who knows. But in any case, we didn't want to cancel today. We were tempted to cancel, but we felt we'd rather just share with you everything that's been showing up for us. Let's share it with you and see what you guys get out of it, because maybe there's something in there for you as well, and that it's our responsibility to pass it along and let you guys play around with this math stuff, or let you guys listen to Terrence Howard and hear it from the horse's mouth what he's been doing since the age of 5, right? And what significance might all of this have for humanity, because as crazy changes are coming around the corner, these types of movements that we're sharing, it's all part and parcel. They're related. Something is crumbling on the one hand, and something new is growing on the other, and they're happening simultaneously. So Leah says, thank you, Attlas. Blessings, everyone. Azazel says, thanks for today. Keep reaching for the pearl to your own, to your our claim. And Benjamin says, thank you for sharing your knowledge today, sir. Wishing your peace and wellness. Andrea says, if you need a math consultation, I will make you a discount. I appreciate that, Andrea. We'll take you up on that. And Leah says, hugs. Soup and Kashmir says, thank you. So grateful for your time. Hopefully you're going to like the album. This musician is very special. Soul. It helped me a lot and people around me. Well, we'll definitely check it out, Soup and Kashmir. Thanks for the advice. Thanks for the recommendation. So listen, everyone, thank you all for coming out and being with us today. Have a wonderful week. If you had a tough week last week, hopefully this week will be better. And if not, remember to stay grounded, one eye in, one eye out, observe yourself, remember yourself. There's something in here, in that darkness, in that hell. The harder your week, there's something in there for us to learn from that. Myself included. That goes for everybody. Archer says, the biggest solar storm of the century this weekend. Good day, all. And Azazel says, don't check mine out. Okay. Thank you all. Take care. Have a good week. We'll hopefully see you back next weekend. Until then, take care and inferential peace. Goodbye, everyone.